Parents sometimes ask the question about the relationship between autism and childhood vaccinations. What we do recognize is that some of the vaccinations do include mercury, or have in the past years, but there's been a good deal of recent research that lets us know that it is not mercury and it is not childhood vaccinations that contribute to the cause of autism in children. That is a very strong misconception that a lot of people still hold.
It's not just a strong misconception, it's a deadly misconception. If you are not getting your kids vaccinated because you're worried that a vaccine will give them autism, you are exposing them to tremendous risk. Well, someone who has been a propagandist, a celebrity propagandist, against getting your babies vaccinated is none other than Jenny McCarthy. Well, who's she? We're going to go to L.A. now to talk to Ben Shapiro, who will tell us. Hey, Ben, welcome back to the show.
Hey, how are you doing?
Well, I'm very well, thanks. Now, Jenny McCarthy, tell us a little bit about her for our viewers who, let's say, don't have a subscription to Playboy magazine.
Well, you know, if you don't have a subscription to Playboy magazine, or if you haven't seen, what was it, Scream 3, then you probably have missed Jenny McCarthy lately. She's been in a bunch of B-level movies showing her assets, which would generally be her chest. She was a former nude model for Playboy magazine. That's how she got her start. Then she started sounding off about autism and vaccinations. She has a son with autism, and she claimed that vaccinations were responsible for her son's autism, leading thousands of parents around the country to stop giving their children vaccinations, resulting in measles, mumps, and all sorts of other communicable diseases that can cripple children and youth. So this, of course, is the proper IQ level for someone who's going to be a co-host on The View. I mean, considering the fact that she's going to be probably replacing Joy Behar, it is amazing. They should just, honestly, they should just grab a bus and go on down to the local mental ward, pick up 5 women, bring them back, put them down, and have a coffee clatch in the middle of the studio.
Listen, you and I are both being mean, but I think the reason we're being mean is because her message, although it's framed with a smile and pretty eyes, is deadly. Here's a website. Let me show you a website. It's called Jenny McCarthy's Body Count. And this is the number of kids who've become ill since Jenny McCarthy's jihad against vaccines, over 100,000. And it's estimated that more than 1,000 babies have died. And as we heard from that MD in that public service announcement earlier, not a single case of autism has been linked to vaccination. Now, of course, Jenny McCarthy, she hangs out with very deep thinkers. I mean, she used to be married to Jim Carrey. Now she's dating Donnie Wahlberg of New Kids on the Block. So she's got a lot of science in her life, I say, with some sarcasm. Look, I don't mind when public people join a debate, but she's spreading pure disinformation.
Well, we've seen this repeatedly in the American media, where people who don't know anything about a particular topic, especially when it comes to medicine, are given a platform. Oprah Winfrey almost killed the beef industry in the United States about 12 years ago when she started talking about the dangers of beef, and she ended up really costing them billions and billions of dollars. The amount of power that is wielded by people like Jenny McCarthy, because some executive decides that they need someone with an IQ, maybe making it into double digits on a national TV show talking about things like autism, it really does have a tremendous impact. A lot of folks watch this stuff.
Yeah. You know what? I think of some of the other goofy causes that celebrities do, and I understand why celebrities do it, especially celebrities as vacuous as Jenny McCarthy. When they just read lines or smile and show their assets, people might think that they're vacuous and shallow, so they try and look super deep by being super serious about things, even if they know very little about it. These people are expert at posing for cameras and reading lines. So when they venture out without a screenwriter, it gets a little dangerous. It makes me look at other celebrities who talk about things like global warming or the seal hunt. It makes me look fondly on them because I don't think any of them have 1,000 baby death count to their credit.
Yeah, Jenny McCarthy is definitely at the top of the list in terms of fallout. But again, this sort of mindset permeates Hollywood, the idea that you have to go out and you have to make a difference in the world. Well, some of you're not really qualified to make a difference in the world, at least a positive difference in the world. So why don't you sit down and read your lines and do what we want you to do and stop trying to convince Americans not to vaccinate their own children. Yeah.
Ben, you wrote a book called Primetime Propaganda. Can you sum up the thesis of that book for our viewers? Because I think this is something that's very interesting to Sun Media viewers because, we like following celebrities as much as the other guy because they're attractive and have exciting lives. But I think most of us dislike the political condescension and shallowness of our morally superior Hollywood brothers and sisters. Tell us what the thesis of your book is.
Well, Hollywood spoon-feeds liberalism into all of its shows, and they do it on purpose. I talk to the people who are behind these Hollywood shows. I talk to the producers and the directors and the writers and some of the actors even. And they talked openly about how one of their goals with their entertainment product is to push certain political viewpoints. So when you're watching a show, you're just sitting down at night enjoying a show, you are getting political messages whether you like it or not. This is what Hollywood is out to do. It's what makes them feel good about themselves. Honestly, it's what allows them to sleep at night in those big palatial estates off of Sunset Boulevard while claiming to be socialists.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, because they are the 1% in every way. Their income, their environmental footprint. I remember when James Cameron was criticizing the oil sands, he had just finished doing the circuit promoting Avatar. He literally had a 100-city promotional tour by jet, and this guy is criticizing the development of oil and gas. I guess it's a psychological coping device for that dissonance between living the ultra jet-set rich kid lifestyle, pure materialism, to, I guess, just to maintain some peace in their mind. They have to say really wacky things to show that really they care about little people.
Absolutely. Well, that's how they justify to themselves, you know, making this much money when they really should not be, at least according to them. I mean, look, they should be. They're earning the money. But for them, they don't understand how they are different from the person down at the local coffee bean and tea leaf in Los Angeles who's working on their script in the back room between coffee shifts. And so they tend to believe that all economic success is luck, and that all discrimination is that all differences in income level is based on discrimination or injustice that can only be rectified by a giant government intervention.
You know, Jenny McCarthy used to be married to Jim Carrey. I could just imagine the conversations around the dinner table at home. I mean, Jim Carrey was in the news recently. I mean, listen, I think he's a very funny guy. I mean, he's got sort of one shtick, but I can take it in doses. Here's the thing. He has a personal bodyguard. Of course he does. He's one of the most recognizable comedians in the country, just for personal safety. And of course his bodyguard is armed with a firearm that is loaded. Of course, he has been on a tear against gun ownership. He's calling for gun bans, assault rifles. And then people point out, well, hang on, buddy. Your bodyguard packs heat, and just the pretzels he's tried to turn himself into. This is the thing. It's not, I mean, listen, there are worse crimes out there than hypocrisy, but it's a bit of chutzpah for a guy who can afford a private armed guard everywhere he goes to tell Joe Normal that he can't have a gun. There's an elitism to their pretend socialism, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. Well, the chutzpah permeates everything that they do. I mean, when you're talking about income levels, these are the same people who are stashing their money in offshore accounts while proclaiming that the rich should pay higher taxes.
Yeah, like Bono. I mean, I generally like Bono. I think his causes are, you know, helping feed Africa. But he moved his entire operation to save hundreds of millions in taxes. Sorry, I interrupted you. Last word to you, Ben.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, when you look at everything from racial relations to taxes to environment, everything that the left does in Hollywood is stuff they don't practice in their personal lives. In their personal lives, they're actually pretty conservative, but when it comes to public policy, they have to be as liberal as possible just to justify to themselves why exactly they're living the rich and famous lifestyles that they lead.
Huh. Well, now, one last question. You said something interesting. You called it when you're consuming the product, which made me think, well, it's almost like a product placement, right? It's, I mean, you know, sometimes in a music video you see a particular brand of vodka or something. You know, oh, okay, they paid $1 million to get in there. Is this a deliberate product placement by politicians on the left, or is it a naturally occurring syndrome in Hollywood, or is it a bit of both?
It's definitely some of both. That's why when you're watching TV shows, sometimes you'll see an Obama poster in the background, but sometimes it just comes straight from the minds of the creators of the show, and they don't even know what they're doing very often. They're creating characters who they think are likable. The people in their own lives who they like are people who tend to be liberal. And this is why narrative has such an impact on how we think, because what they do is they introduce us to people who we like and who we want to hang out with, and then they make those people liberal. They make those people act in ways that we don't necessarily like, and then they say to us, but you like this person, so how can you disagree with their behavior? This is how the left has been able to make so much headway on things like single motherhood. It's how they've been able to make so much headway on gay marriage. Joe Biden said very recently that Will and Grace was one of the driving forces behind gay marriage, and everybody sort of accepted that. Of course, when Dan Quayle said that Murphy Brown was a driving force behind single motherhood, that was completely out of bounds, but both of them were absolutely correct.
Ben Shapiro, very interesting conversation. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining us
You too.
from Hollyweird.